Hello. I'm glad you could join us today as we look at that Wednesday in the Passion Week of Jesus Christ. On Wednesday, the betrayal was conceived. Jesus returned to the temple complex as he had done each day, where he continued teaching. He was very well received by the crowds who gathered to listen to him. But he also remained under the scrutiny of the religious leaders, who were very uncomfortable that people were so intrigued by Jesus' words. Luke tells us in Luke 19:47, "And he was teaching daily in the temple, but the chief priests and the scribes and the leading men among the people were trying to destroy him, and they could not find anything that they might do, for all the people were hanging on to every word he said." The religious leaders continued to scheme against Jesus, but they were aware of his popularity with the people who were listening to his teachings and who witnessed the miracles that he had performed, and they heard his challenges to the authority of the leaders. Desperate for relief from the hollow rituals and burdensome rules of legal religion, people found inspiration and new hope in Jesus' words. As the crowds were encouraged by the things Jesus taught them, the religious leaders were perplexed, seeking a solution to the Jesus problem that they faced. Unexpectedly, they discovered an ally. His name was Judas Iscariot. Mark tells us, "Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went off to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. They were glad when they heard this and promised to give him money. And he began seeking how to betray him at an opportune time." Matthew records that in response to the threats and the challenges of the scribes and Pharisees, Jesus pronounced a series of woes for their hypocritical religion. "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees." You'll find that list of woes in Matthew chapter 23. Jesus condemned them for being so boastfully religious and at the same time so woefully unspiritual. By their legalistic demands, they had siphoned off the joy of people's relationship with God and the experience of serving Him in their lives. There is one thing the Gospels do not record in the midst of that busy Passion Week. According to the Gospels, Jesus performed no miracles, provided no healing, offered no signs, or Simeon, as John called them in his Gospel. Previously, the people had witnessed many miracles and healing wonders from Jesus' hands. The last one was raising Lazarus from the dead, but none were recorded that week. Jesus may have performed miracles that the Gospels don't record, but scholars suggest that Jesus reached out to the people by the power of his words. John laments, "But though he had performed so many signs before them, yet they were not believing in him. Nevertheless, many, even of the rulers, believed in him, but because of the Pharisees they were not confessing him, for fear that they would be put out of the synagogue." As the day concluded, Jesus gave instructions to his disciples to prepare for their observance of the Passover Seder, the annual memorial meal observed by all Jews. In Matthew 26, it says, "When Jesus had finished all these words, he said to his disciples, 'You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man is to be handed over for crucifixion.'" After an exhausting day, Jesus and the disciples retreated to Bethany once again. It was to be the last night that they would spend in Bethany before Jesus' arrest and trial, where they shared a meal in the home of Simon the leper. While they were there, Jesus was anointed once again with expensive nard by a woman. Perhaps it was Mary, Lazarus' sister again, or perhaps Mary Magdalene, we're not sure. But when his disciples protested, Jesus replied, "She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for the burial." The cross loomed large in Jesus' thoughts and words that day. You can read the full account of what the gospel writers tell us about Jesus' activities that week You can check Matthew 21, Mark 11, Luke 19, and John 12 and following to receive information that we're sharing with you this week. I'm very grateful to be able to share it with you. Thank you for tuning in, and hope you'll join us for Thursday's edition. God bless you today.